So you want to make a horseshoe game for your VRChat world? Not a problem. In just a few minutes, we're going to be showing you how you can achieve this effect in Unity. But before we do that, I wanted to show you why this was actually a difficult video to make an asset to develop compared to what I was expecting to do with my Unreal 5 engine experience. So I'll keep this concise because I know we're here for Unity and VRChat tutorials, not Unreal Engine at the moment. But I just wanted to demonstrate the differences and how collision works because it's very important. So if we actually look at simple collision, you can see here this would not allow us to basically move in between this blank space, which is what we'd want to do for making a horseshoe game, because you want the horseshoe to be able to go around something, as in the empty spot can be passed through, but everything else has collision. So for that, you would normally want to use complex collision, or called convex collision. Which would normally be called mesh collision when we're talking about Unity. Unfortunately, in Unity, something that is non-static, so it's dynamic, pickupable, movable, cannot have complex or mesh collision. So we had to, unfortunately, kind of rig it around this feature, which I think is an absolute waste. This should be allowable. Even though it's more resource intensive, that should be on the developer to decide if they want to do it or not. So we had to pretty much get around this. And how we did that was with this horseshoe object, we actually had to use multiple collider bodies, just simple box colliders, so simple collision, but we had to have overlap them essentially everywhere we want there to be collision and leave a blank space. So unfortunately, it's not super tight around the edges, but it still works pretty good. And we can demonstrate that right now. So how it's set up at the moment is it'll just play it'll work like intended, as in you can move it, and it actually does play a noise. Let's get a little closer so hopefully we can hear that. So now you should be able to hear it playing. So when it hits this trigger, it plays a noise indicating that it was a successful throw. And obviously, as we see, it can move inside these bounds. And then if it hits somewhere outside where there are colliders, it collides as we would expect. Now, for the purpose of testing, I have gravity turned off, but we would turn that on, obviously, if we were actually implementing this in our VRChat world, which is you just hit use gravity and boom, it has gravity. But it's harder to test it with gravity, so there you go. But this is basically what we're going to be looking at how to make. Now, I'm not going to be including where to get all these models, because you might have your own model you want to use, or just take this and expand on it and do something of your own nature with this basically how-to tutorial. But if you do want exactly this, it will be available on my Patreon drag and drop play functionality, and I only have it set up for this one horseshoe at the moment, but I will add this one. And if this does do well on my Patreon, or if there's a lot of interest in it, maybe I'll add some more features like a scorekeeper or something of that nature. So more of a mini game or a game within a world that we can develop, other than just something that kind of works. So let's go ahead and look at how this was achievable. So what you want to do, we'll use our other object for our example, is here is a horseshoe we have our VRC pickup and our object sync, which is exactly what we'd want, but it has no collision. So what you'd want to do is add box colliders and then edit those colliders via the edit button to be, what's going on? Can't move. Yeah. You want to edit those colliders like we were just trying to do to line up with where you want them to be. So for instance, no collision here, and there is collision here. Now, because this doesn't cover everything, we would just keep adding box colliders. And that is essentially how we made our other object. So this would work for anything, any model you want. And then on our stake, we are actually using a mesh collider, which is complex collision. And we can do this in this case since the stake or the goalpost is not moving. So that's kind of the rules for trying to do something like this in Unity. Now, of course, we have our audio player. How do we do this? Well, we've already covered how to trigger audios on, trigger audios on a trigger, not on a interact. So we just applied that to this sound, to this object. Basically extrapolated the knowledge we've covered in our other video and applied it to this. We add a box collider and set the is trigger to true. And then of course, because we don't want it to be visible, we just turn off the renderer for this mesh. And then of course, just like in our sounds video, please go check that out if you haven't, we simply add our trigger for our event, essentially, which if we open the C# script, here's what it looks like. And it just says, hey, we have an audio source and a game object. So whenever this trigger hits this game object, it plays this audio source, which is a clip of a sound effect, which again will come in the Patreon. Like this exact sound effect will come in the Patreon, but you can use your own sound effect if you want. No need for this one. And an additional option I might add in the future is to actually go ahead and create it so it's not the same sound every time. Maybe it plays through a random list of sounds, or maybe we invert the pitch or something like that to make it seem like it's playing different sounds. So that is kind of how this works. The real difficulty comes in figuring out how to properly pseudo make a complex mesh when you're not allowed to. And it's not perfect, but I think it's the best we can really achieve for VRChat at the moment. So, hey, it works, right? And just to see how this would kind of work in game, you can walk up, grab our horseshoe, and we can see it does indeed work. So again, if you want gravity on it, you can just turn gravity on. But for testing purposes, when you don't have hands or anything like that, it just makes it a little bit harder. Overall, pretty proud of this one. It was a clever workaround. And yeah, and that's it. You've now got a fully functional horseshoe game for your VRChat world, complete with realistic physics and custom interactions that go way beyond just throwing an object. If this helped you out, consider liking and subscribing. It really helps the channel grow. My YouTube is not monetized yet, so if you want to support future tutorials and assets like this, check out my Patreon. Every tier gets you exclusive downloads, and your support directly helps me keep making high-quality tools for VRChat creators. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.